Welcome to Calming the Chaos, where I help you find peace in a chaotic world. I'm Tracy Canella, licensed mental health counselor who talks about chaos from a mental health perspective. And I give you self-help resources you can use to calm your chaos in any situation in this world. Isn't this fun? It's not a substitute for counseling or psychotherapy, but just a lot of helpful hints and tools. So if you're on board, feel free to tune in. And now, let the chaos begin. Well, the world has plenty of chaos in it right now. It's Halloween 2025. We've got a government shutdown. We've got people worried about food stamps. We've got people who are worried about their Social Security checks. And we've got crime. We've got threats of crime. All of this stuff in our waking life that we hear about. And I think, wow, let's just go to sleep. And when we go to sleep, hopefully find some relief from all the chaos. But when I think of going to sleep, I think of my dreams, and nothing fits the description better of chaos than my dreams. And I don't know about you, but I know a couple of people that I've talked to have experienced the same thing. They are random, they don't make sense, they're confusing, mixed up, and kind of crazy and intense. And sometimes it creates a lot more chaos when you wake up and you realize that was just a dream. What just happened? So, here today to help us to understand dreams and how they could actually be helpful in our lives is Ara Trembly. And Ara is a licensed professional counselor with a private practice in Georgia. He's a psychotherapist and a board certified hypnotherapist. And he's written a book about dreams most recently that talks about how they can be gifts and can give you valuable information for your life. And so right now, welcome Ara Trembly to Calming the Chaos podcast.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here, because it's weird. The last time we talked about you coming on the show, I was going to keep track of some of my dreams, and I had a whole week where I had some nightmares. And I'm not sure if it's because of all the stuff that's going on in the world, but I'm really looking forward to you helping us to untangle dreams and or nightmares or whatever they might be and help us to understand them. I guess my first question for you would be, tell us a little bit about why we dream and why people sometimes say that they don't even dream.
Dream because our minds every day, in the course of every day, we take in so much information, so much sensory information, so many things that we see, hear, taste, touch, smell. We take in all that information, and all those things that we take in have associations. So the examples I use in my book is, you smell popcorn, or you just smell popcorn, you might think of a time when you were a kid and you went to the circus and you went with your uncle and it was a great time, except your uncle was a little weird. I mean, any of those things could come up. And so the problem with that is there are so many associations with all this input that we take in that our conscious mind can't entertain them all at once. We would be overwhelmed. We could not entertain everything that comes in at once. So what happens is that things come in, and they're stored in our unconscious mind, perhaps to be dealt with later, depending on how important they are to us. And so the reason we dream, one reason we dream, is so that some of these things that come in that form associations can be dealt with, because the mind likes to the mind likes to solve problems. And one of the things that can happen in dreams is that we can solve problems. So things that happen during the day can get replayed, but maybe we see them from a different perspective, because the conscious mind, which is usually very logical, is out of the way. And as you said, dreams sometimes don't make sense, but they make sense in their own particular way. But as I said, one of the examples I give in the book is that the golfer Jack Nicklaus um, was playing in a tournament, and he had he was having trouble with his swing. He was having problems, and he went after the tournament. He went to the out to the range to see if he could figure it out, but he really couldn't. But he said that night when he slept in his dream, he saw something. He worked out something that he hadn't seen, that he hadn't thought of in his conscious life, in his conscious. And the next day, he remembered that and he tried it the next day and it worked out for him fine. So that's just one example of how dreams can be useful. But why we dream is because we really have to. Because I love the title of this podcast, "Calming the Chaos," because life would be completely our mental life would be completely chaos if we didn't have dreams to be able to work some of this stuff out.
Yeah. So then what about people who say, I don't dream? I don't ever have dreams.
Okay, so everybody dreams. That's one of those. That's actually one of those scientific things. I mean, dreams is such the area of dreams is such an art rather than science. But but we know that we do dream. We know by rapid eye movements. We know by sleep studies that people dream. Now, people don't always remember their dreams. That's true. And one of the things I tell people in this book is if you want to remember your dreams, just make sure before you go to sleep that you tell yourself, "Hey, I'm going to remember my dreams." If you're a person of faith, you pray about it. Say, "Lord, help me remember my dreams," and you will. And it's an interesting thing. One of the things we know about from hypnosis is that suggestions often work, and you're making a suggestion to yourself that you will remember. So, yes, everybody dreams. Not everybody remembers, but if you want to remember and you make the effort, you will.
Give yourself that hypnotic suggestion, right? I will remember
Mhm.
my dreams.
Yes, indeed.
Great. Well, so how can we learn from our dreams? Because one of the things you told me about the book is it tells you what you can learn from your dreams and actually how it can help you make decisions for your life. Can you talk a little bit
Mhm.
more about that?
Most often, our dreams will apply to situations that are going on in our life. So how can we learn from them? Because um, the situations are presented in a different way, or maybe even in a symbolic way that doesn't quite that's not quite logical. But on the other hand, when we think about the dream later, we know it applies to our life situation. So one of the dreams I cite one of my own dreams in the book in which I dreamed of being outside a banquet hall and realizing at the same time that I was dreaming, which is what we call a lucid dream. I realized that I was in a dream, but I was still dreaming. But I said, "Oh, I'm in a dream. I can do anything." So I said, "I'm going to walk through the wall into this place. I'm not going to walk in the door. I'm going to walk through the wall." And that's what I did. I walked through this wall step by step and went inside right through the wall. And I forget I did some things inside, and then I decided I would walk back out again. So as I'm walking back out, suddenly I'm stuck. I can't walk any further, and there's an obstacle in the way, and uh, and I'm wondering in my own dream, I'm wondering, boy, is this my conscious mind intruding and saying, "Hey, you can't walk through walls. This is ridiculous." But then I thought, no, I thought this is an obstacle. So my solution was just to walk around this obstacle. Whatever it was, I walked around it and back out through the wall. So when I thought about this dream in terms of interpreting it the next day, I realized that it applied to the what was going on at the time, which was the writing of the very book that I'm talking about today. I was writing the book, and to me, walls. So there are symbols. So what do walls mean? Walls mean confinement. So I was able to walk through the wall, all right, through the confinement or whatever was happening inside. But when coming back out, I hit something that wouldn't let me go by. But instead of worrying about it, or instead of fretting about it, I just found a way around it. I was writing a particular chapter in this book about the dream world, which is a very difficult chapter to write. And and I realized that, oh, I don't have to answer every question. I can only answer some questions, and I can go around that problem and still continue and still get to my goal. So I learned something from that dream, and so where I was stuck having writer's block, so to speak, it was gone.
Wow, interesting. Well, what about nightmares? When you have nightmares, do they help you have solutions to the problems in your life? Because I'll tell you, last week I had a slew of nightmares.
Ah, wow, wow. I'm sorry to hear that. But yeah, nightmares, just like any other dream, there are things to be learned. Nightmares are especially important because oftentimes we'll wake up and we'll be sweating. Our pulse will have, the pulse will be going. We might be breathing hard.
Yeah.
Um, and so, but once we're not in the dream anymore, and we look back on it, okay, well, what was going on in this nightmare? Again, what was going on in this nightmare that relates to what's going on in my life right now? Is there
Mhm.
something that I'm afraid of right now that's represented by this? And
Mhm.
almost always you'll find something. You'll be able to relate it to something that's going on in your life, or either a problem, or just something that you anticipate. Because a lot of times, we both know this as therapists, that a lot of times what we're worried about or anxious about or even scared of are things that haven't happened or things that could happen. Okay. So sometimes in the dreams, those will be played out. And but you once you look at the dream yourself, you can realize maybe you realize, oh, well, this isn't as bad as I thought it was, even though it played out. Or okay, this could happen, but it really isn't likely. But the point is, we have to link that. It's like any other dream. We have to link it up with the themes that are going on in our own life and the events that are going on in our own life. And yes, we get to learn from it for sure.
Well, let me tell you one of the dreams or the nightmares that I had last week. Okay. So, and you said, I think when we talked before, that the symbolism you don't have, you can't write a book about just this symbolizes this and it's true for everything, that
Yes,
we have
correct.
our own symbolism that we create in our own minds about what's
Yes.
going on. So
Hmm.
I believe, in my kitchen, and there was this little girl, and she kept putting a kitten in the freezer. And I caught the girl doing it once, and I said, "What are you doing?" And I pulled the kitten out. It was cold. It was covered with ice. And
Mm.
then, the kitten was okay. And then I thought, I'm going to have to keep an eye on her because she might do it again. And she did do it again. But the second time I saw it, the kitten was like shivering, and the mouth was actually quivering, like it was really, really shivering and shaking. And I thought, oh
Mm.
my gosh, is this kitten going to be able to make it? And that's pretty much where
Mm.
the dream ended.
Wow.
What do you think
Wow.
about that?
Okay. So if we were sitting in my office and we were talking about this dream, I'd say, well, what do cats and kittens mean to you? I mean, what does that mean to you? What does that call to mind for you, especially in terms of what's going on in your life right now?
Yeah, cats are my babies. I don't have any children of
Hmm.
my own. I have my 2
Okay.
cats, my 2 girl cats, and kittens in particular, they're kind of vulnerable. So
Hmm.
it was maybe a vulnerable thing. And then being in
Yes.
danger and in the cold, and what that might symbolize to me is one of my biggest fears is, and it actually happened last week. My power went out, and
Oh,
we were
yes.
all very cold. And so
Yes.
I'm not sure what solution in my life that would have solved, but it does.
Mm.
I can see what you mean by the symbolism, though, because they're like my children.
Yeah.
They may be in danger. It might be cold.
And it's to me, it's significant that it was a child doing this. So, we as therapists love to talk about the inner child. I would think, okay, so this is your inner child, doing something that it could be dangerous to your children, which are the cats, which are the kittens,
Mhm.
and so only you know the symbolism for that, or how that
Okay.
affects your own life. Yeah, that's very revealing. That's one. If we were we'd probably be talking about that for the whole hour.
Mhm. Well, another one I had was of my house too. I was on some sort of scaffolding and it was outside the house, but I was on
Mm,
the top
yeah.
level of the house, and somehow the part that led to downstairs broke off, and I was kind of stuck on the top of, the top floor. And other people were at the bottom floor, but they couldn't like shimmy up and get me. And I was kind of stuck in one place in my house and wondering, well, it's too far to jump down and they can't get up. What am I going to do?
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. That's a good one.
I
So
had both
so,
of those in
okay.
the same both of those were in the same night.
Oh, interesting, interesting. All right. Well, so the house, again, symbols don't always mean the same thing to everybody, but often when we dream of our house or our home, it's a s it's a metaphor for our mind. Okay. So if we accept that, you're nodding your head like, okay, that makes sense. Okay,
Mhm.
good. So if you're in, sometimes when we're in the very upper levels of our high level thinking, doing high level thinking and doing things like that, um, uh, sometimes it's hard to relate to people who are on the lower levels, either intellectually
Mhm.
or emotionally. It's there's something that's in between. It's hard to bridge that gap. So it sounds like there's something about bridging that gap that you're finding difficult in your life.
Mm.
Um, and who knows, maybe it relates to patients or clients of yours.
That's
I
what I
don't
was
know.
thinking. That's exactly what I
Yeah,
was thinking.
yeah,
Wow. Well,
fascinating. Yes.
I must say too that I've had some pretty cool dreams. The coolest dream I think I had was when I was walking by the ocean, and then I realized it was a little windy. I realized I remembered I could fly. And so all I did was I
Ah,
put my arms out and the wind caught me and I was up there flying. And it was interesting because I felt the sensation. I've never actually flown except for in an
hmm,
airplane, right? Or
right.
maybe in a carnival ride, and I went parasailing once. So that's the closest I've come to feeling that feeling. But I really felt
Right.
the feeling of not having any strings attached and going and flying around and just kind of having
Okay.
fun.
Yes, yeah. Oh, that's great. People love to attach meanings to flying dreams. Okay, but again, flying doesn't mean the same thing to everybody. So
Mm.
to you, I think you even said it. Flying means freedom. It's this sense
Yes.
of freedom. And look, and you're next to the ocean. The expanse of the ocean is there. It's all there. You can fly out over it. You can fly out over the
Hmm.
beaches. You can fly wherever you want. And so there's a sense of freedom there. So my guess is that you woke up from this dream feeling very good.
I did. Yeah. I was like, wow,
Yes.
that was just such a fun experience. And I wonder if that was telling me at the time that I have to remember that I do have freedom and I can have fun because as you know, in our professions,
Hmm.
we work really hard and we process a lot with our clients and,
Yeah.
have to protect ourselves from their energies sometimes because they can be pretty intense emotionally, which we need to be those containers for them. So I think
Yeah.
now I'm getting kind of the hang of it. So it's really kind of how does
Mhm.
it make you feel? What kind of symbolism does it mean for you? And then
Yes.
try to figure out and relate it to what the things are going on in your life. And that if
Mhm.
it's chaotic, you could actually find, like Jack Nicholas did, just another workaround, something that you were
Yes.
missing, a different perspective.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, they're just so high. That's why I say that gifts are a dream from dreams are a gift from God, excuse me,
Yeah.
because that really is a gift to us. If we're willing to open ourselves up to it and examine it.
Right. Well, let me give out your website so that people can learn more about you. Let's go ahead and do the website first, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the book. And this
Okay.
is www.10, that's the number 10 dash 10hypnosis.com. And it'll be in the show notes as well. So you can click on that and visit the website. And
Hmm.
then this is the link to his book, Era's book, and that's called Dreaming God's Way. And it's out, and you can go ahead and look at this YouTube video and see if you are interested in learning a little bit more about dreams and
Hmm.
how dreams can help you in your life. Do you have anything more to say about dreams or your book?
Huh. Well, I could go on talking all day about dreams because it's just been an area of fascination for me since boy, probably since I was in high school, and I've been writing down dreams and looking at them and trying to figure them out and doing a lot of research in dreams. So that's really what led to writing this book because one of the things I realized, and you brought it up before, but I'll bring it up again, is that there are a lot of dream books out there, but any dream books that tells you that when you see a symbol, it always means X, Y, or Z is misleading you. It's just a good example of that is for me as a Christian, if I see a symbol of a cross, that it symbolizes Jesus. All right, that's what it would mean to me. That makes sense. But for somebody else, maybe somebody in the medical field, they see a cross, it might symbolize the Red Cross. All right. Or if they see a cross, if a person sees a cross, it might symbolize a crossroads. Maybe they're a trucker and they're thinking about a certain crossroads. So symbols are very personal. Yes, they have universal meanings for most of us, but in our dreams, those symbols are personal. And so I would caution people to realize that, don't just think you can go get a dream book and look up what this symbol means because chances are it's not going to mean that to you. The
Mhm.
key is what it means to you. Dreams are highly individualized psychic occurrences, and but if we pay them the proper respect and if we realize, hey, this is me, this is all about me, we'll do much better in interpreting them and learning from them.
Yeah, I remember one dream where I was on the highway driving my car backwards, and it was at a time where I didn't feel like I was going a whole lot of forward motion in my life, but it was a
Yeah,
scary dream, but it was that one was pretty obvious. It's like, okay, so what can you do in a situation like that? You could put on the brakes, I guess, and you could just look
yeah.
around and consider where you're going, and that's exactly what I did in that
Okay,
in that
good.
year that I was just really struggling to move forward. And the other
Mm,
thing that came up for me when you were just talking was there was a dream where I was driving, but I was driving on a road that had a tarp on it. And it was interesting. I had to stay on the tarp. And the tarp for me means protection, right? Because I think about my tarp is over my firewood, or it would be
oh,
over a tent to protect me
okay, yes.
and going places in a car, a vehicle to take me there. I felt like maybe I needed to be a little bit more protected as I was
Mm,
moving forward, and I had to stay on that protective tarp. But
yeah.
I don't know if that was because I was in danger or if it was just that, safety was very important to me at that time. But it is interesting how symbols can mean different things to different people because that tarp could mean
Mm.
something way different to you or anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, those are great examples, and I was thinking about the dream you told me about driving backwards, and so for driving backwards, maybe we can turn our heads around and look, or maybe we're just looking in our rearview mirror to see where we're going. Okay, something I tell clients all the time is that there's a reason that in your car that the windshield is so big and the rearview mirror is so small. The
Hmm.
reason is because what is in front of you is much more important than what's in back of you. And maybe that was a little bit of that was going on for you is, kind of, living in the past or being too focused on the past and not really paying attention to what was in front of you. So that was to me,
Ah.
that's a great lesson from your unconscious.
Yes, so that's the whole point of the book is to be
Yes,
able to get the lessons from the unconscious and then be able to use that to calm your daily chaos because we do
yes,
have a lot of it in the world, and it would be great to be able to go to sleep and even have nightmares and say, "You know what? I can learn from this chaos and I can
exactly
learn from
right.
my dreams." So this is
Yes.
called Dreaming God's Way. This is Ara Trembly, and I'm so happy to have had you on today. And you've been very helpful, and hopefully my audience will think you're helpful as well. And thanks for coming on Calming the Chaos podcast. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a privilege. It really has.
Thanks. Thanks for listening to Calming the Chaos podcast. If you found this podcast interesting or helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. You can also go to www.calmingthechaospodcast.com to listen to all Calming the Chaos podcast episodes. I look forward to sharing my next podcast episode with you.